Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Devin Shanahan Show. Today we have some interesting news. We're going to talk about some rather surprising endorsements that Donald Trump has received over the last couple of weeks. We're going to talk about Twitter and how they finally reinstated the New York Post's account. We're going to talk about the polls, and we're also going to talk about a little bit of news related to Amy Coney Barrett and how she's already facing extreme backlash from the pretty much the radical left, the Democratic Party, but I'm going to call them the radical left because that's who the Democratic Party panders to these days. So, all right, let's read the news. We got an article here from the Los Angeles Times. Lil Wayne is the latest rapper to support Trump, much to Twitter's ire. Lil Wayne is feeling the heat after became the latest prominent rapper to endorse President Trump for re-election. Before Trump jetted to Miami for the last-minute campaigning, he met privately with the A Milli artist. Quote, just had a great meeting with real Donald Trump. Besides what he's done so far with criminal reform, the Platinum Plan is going to give the community real ownership, Lil Wayne tweeted Thursday. He listened to what we had to say today and assured he will and can get it done. And then Trump retweeted this. Here's a post. So this is what Lil Wayne tweeted. He tweeted out this photo of him meeting with Donald Trump. So yeah, as the article goes on here, it says the internet went wild, blah blah blah. Yeah, so I mean we saw this with 50 Cent, right? So 50 Cent came out and endorsed Donald Trump like 2 weeks ago, maybe 1 week ago, and I believe Chelsea Handler came out and told him that something along the lines of, I mean, she pretty much told him he can't do that because he's black, is what she said. And she didn't say that. That's not a direct quote, but that's pretty much what she meant, right? And, you saw 50 Cent face a lot of backlash over that. And, he pussed out and ended up rescinding his endorsement, and he sent out another tweet saying something along the lines of "Funk Donald Trump," right? But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't buy that. I think that 50 Cent is still going to vote for Donald Trump. He is just essentially, he caved to the craziness. People don't like being hated online. They don't like the attacks. They cave when they get attacked by a lot of people. A lot of weak people cave. So I mean that's the problem with the Republican Party too. These congressmen, when they have a chance to repeal the Affordable Care Act or all these things, and they just end up caving because they want to be liked. I mean, being liked is a powerful persuasion. I mean, a lot of people want to be liked, and when you attack them, you can back them into a corner and make them say whatever they want. I mean, that's essentially the science behind the secret Trump voter too, and the reason that Trump probably has a lot of supporters out there who are going to vote for him, but are unwilling to say that out loud when they're asked. They're unwilling. If they're in the workplace or they're talking to their friends at dinner or something like that, or they're out in public and they're asked who they're going to vote for, or whether they're being called for a poll and being asked who they support, they're not going to say Donald Trump, and it's because of that persuasive power of, essentially being liked. And what do people think about you? Unfortunately, it's a powerful thing, and it makes people say things that they do not necessarily mean. But let's go on. Rappers are Republicans, tweeted conservative pundit JT Lewis. Quote, the fave hip hop playlist getting shorter by the minute, of course. So a bunch of people are just giving Lil Wayne heat, but I mean, there's a bigger picture here, right? So, we had Lil Wayne, we had 50 Cent, who I just talked about. We also had Ice Cube. Ice Cube didn't come out and officially endorse Donald Trump, but he did say that he talked to the Biden campaign, and he also talked to the Trump campaign about plans for Black America. And he said explicitly that the Biden campaign was unwilling to work with him, but the Trump campaign was. And you can interpret that however you want, but I interpret that as an endorsement for Donald Trump. Because I mean, let's be real. If you're working with Donald Trump, but Biden refuses to work with you, who are you going to vote for? If you want to push your plan through Congress, if you want to help Black America, are you going to go in there and vote for Joe Biden after his campaign said that, oh, we'll talk about that later, Ice Cube. That's not important right now. We can talk about that later. That's essentially what he told him. He said, let's talk about it after the election. That means that he doesn't actually care. Donald Trump said, come on, come meet me in the White House. Let's talk about it right now. And Ice Cube gave him credit for that. So, we got a lot of African American celebrities coming out and endorsing Donald Trump. I think that is the main reason that a lot of these polls are way off. They are wildly undercounting the minority vote. I mean, you look at Florida. I think Florida's in the bag for Donald Trump. I mean, you look at all the Cubans down there. There's a lot of people who came over from Cuba, back when Fidel Castro was ruling the country and pretty much killing everyone who disagreed with him. It was a communist regime. All those Cubans who came to America and fled that, they have been a strong voter base for Republicans ever since. And I mean, the same holds true for Venezuela. You have Nicolas Maduro down in Venezuela, essentially destroying the country. This is one of the richest countries in the world in terms of oil. certainly in South America, the richest country in South America by far. They sit on the largest, one of the largest oil reserves in the entire world. And, they went from being an extremely wealthy country just 5, 6, 7 years ago, to literally the people are now eating dogs and barely able to survive. And inflation is insane. People are dying left and right. Starvation. People are starving in the streets. People who used to be extremely wealthy down in Venezuela. So, I mean, that's communism for you. That's socialism for you. That's what happens. They mess it all up. And I mean, it's terrible stuff. It's evil stuff. But all those Venezuelans, a lot of them moved. A lot of them fled Venezuela, the ones who were able to and fortunate enough to. And they came up. They settled in Florida. I was in Miami just earlier this year, and I mean, I had like an Uber driver, right, and he was from Venezuela, and he was talking about it. He was saying, yeah, it's terrible. I mean, we just have poor leadership. So I came up here, and he was a nice guy, great guy. Barely spoke English, but it was fine. We were doing the whole Spanglish thing, and we were understanding each other. But you can tell people like that are voting for Donald Trump. They don't want they don't want this country to turn into that. It's like the guy at the RNC, the Cuban American who spoke, who came here when he was young, escaped Fidel Castro, ended up starting his own business here. Now I think he's worth like $80 million or something insane like that. And he was saying, I've seen this all before back when I was in Cuba, and this leads to socialism. This leads to the destruction of wealth, the destruction of families, and it leads to the destruction of what could be a very great country. So, but yeah, I mean, I wanted to bring up this Little Wayne thing because I think it's very indicative of the polls, and the polls, this is, like I said, it's one of the reasons I think the polls are wildly inaccurate, and it's because they're not counting Black Americans accurately. They're not counting Hispanic Americans accurately. So, there's a lot of people following him. It was, it's once been said that if a Republican ever gets more than 20% of the black vote, that he wins the election no matter what. And there's a lot of polls that have Donald Trump, getting well over 20%. We're talking 26 to 29% of the black vote in some of these polls. And, if he gets that, it's over. He wins. So, but I mean, we'll see. No one really knows. Polls are polls. And I personally think Donald Trump's going to win. That's what my gut feeling tells me. But you never know. Anyone could win, right? We got to see. So, we're close. We're pretty close. We're what, 4 days out now? But yeah. All right. Let's go on. We got an article here from the New York Post. How tweet it is. Twitter backs down, unlocks the Post's account. So this article was from earlier today. Twitter backed down Friday in its battle with the Post and unlocked its main account after a 2-week stalemate over the Hunter Biden expose. The move came after the Post refused Twitter's demand that it delete 6 tweets that linked to stories that the company claimed, quote, without any evidence were based on hacked information. The Post never budged and kept the tweets on the account during the standoff, even as Twitter obscured them from view. In a series of tweets, the social media giant said it was revising its hacked materials policy and updating our practice of not retroactively overturning prior enforcement. This is insane. This is not about hacked materials. Come on. One, these emails have been essentially, they've been proven to be true. This is not hacked. Hunter Biden, being the crackhead that he is, he dropped, he's not a crackhead anymore, but, good for him, not a crackhead anymore, but he was a crackhead at the time where he dropped off this laptop and never went and got it. It's pretty easy to see how, a crackhead might forget his laptop somewhere and just not forget about it. He's also a very rich guy, right? I mean, he probably was like, oh, screw it, I'm not going back to get that laptop, I'm just gonna, buy another one, and, he has one of his aides go run out and buy another laptop, right? So, I mean, it's pretty easy to see how that happened. That's not hacked. That fell under an abandonment clause in Delaware, by which, if you leave your laptop somewhere, it's like a pawn shop. If you leave your stuff there forever and never come get it, it becomes the property of the shop owner. So it's not hacked. And I mean, to say that is absolutely insane. I mean, they supposedly all these articles that the New York Times posts about Donald Trump's taxes and things like this, these things are illegally obtained. It's a federal offense to post someone's tax records without their approval. And, Twitter allows that stuff to go. So it has nothing to do with hacked policy. What it is it's the fact that Twitter is running cover for the Democrats. They have an agenda, and they don't want anything that could possibly help Trump getting reelected on their platform, period. End of story. That's what they want. So let's go on. Quote, our policies are living documents, said one of the tweets from Twitter Safety. We're willing to update and adjust them when we encounter new scenarios or receive important feedback from the public. Twitter arbitrarily cracked down on the Post and locked its account on October 14th, so that was over 2 weeks ago. The company claimed the post violated its policy on sharing, quote, hacked materials by tweeting links to bombshell exclusives on Biden's emails without ever saying how it came to the conclusion, and despite the fact that neither Hunter Biden nor anyone else has claimed the emails were hacked. Yeah, exactly, they weren't hacked. The move sparked widespread outrage that led to Twitter to revise its policy so other users could tweet the stories, but it continued to hold the post's account hostage. Yeah, so Jack Dorsey was essentially, he had an interview with, we're going to find the interview. We're going to find the interview here. Jack Dorsey testifies before Congress, Ted Cruz. There's a very good post out here where Ted Cruz absolutely grilled him, right? And it was great. Here we go.
I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing.
Let's get this in
the three witnesses we have before this committee today collectively pose, I believe, the single great.
So in case you guys didn't know, Ted Cruz used to be a former attorney and a prosecutor. He has argued many cases in front of the Supreme Court, and he's good at this stuff. I think that's one of the reasons that that the Republicans chose him to ask Jack Dorsey these questions. So and Jack Dorsey looks
free speech in America.
We'll get to that.
And the greatest threat we have to free and fair elections. Yesterday, I spent a considerable amount of time speaking with both Mr. Zuckerberg and Mr. Pichai. I have concerns about the behavior of both of their companies. I would note that Facebook is at the minimum at least trying to make some efforts in the direction
Zuckerberg
of
is Facebook and Pichai is Google. Jack Dorsey is Twitter.
Google, I agree with the concerns that Senator Klobuchar raised. I think Google has more power than any company on the face of the planet.
Absolutely.
And the antitrust concerns are real. The impact of Google is profound. And I expect we will have continued and ongoing discussions.
One of the big problems with these hearings is that all these congressmen are very old. They're the type of people who have to call their children to come over and help them set up their router or install an app on their phone or send an email, or their internet goes out and they don't know how to get it working, or they don't know how to load a YouTube video or anything like that. So they have to call their grandkids for things like that. So it's not the best people that you want asking these questions, because they do not fully understand the issues and the underlying problems here, at least technically. But I think Ted Cruz, everyone else pretty much asked bad questions that would fall under what I just said. They just clearly don't understand what's going on. But, Ted Cruz asked very simple questions to Jack Dorsey, and Jack Dorsey had no answer whatsoever. And like we're about to see here.
About Google's abuse of that power and its willingness to manipulate search outcomes to influence and change election results. But today, I want to focus my questioning on Mr. Dorsey
for you guys.
And on Twitter. Because of the three players before us, I think Twitter's conduct has by far been the most egregious. Mr. Dorsey, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections?
Listen to this.
No.
No, he said.
You don't believe Twitter has any ability to influence elections?
No, we are one part of a broad spectrum of communication channels that people have.
So you're...
All right, let's get this out of the way here, right? Jack Dorsey looks like he's trying to audition for Castaway 2 or something like that, right? Your next time he has an interview or a testimony or anything like that, he's gonna come straight up to the Senate right in front of Congress, and he's gonna have his little volleyball with his little fake friend painted on it in blood. It's like straight out of Castaway Island. God, this guy's ridiculous. Look at his nose ring. Who wears nose rings? 12-year-olds wear nose rings. What are you doing, Jack Dorsey? Shave your beard.
Testify to this committee right now that Twitter, when it silences people, when it censors people, when it blocks political speech, that has no impact on elections.
Someone should let the Russians know. Rasputin actually survived the Soviet Union.
Communication channels with which...
Not if they don't hear information. If you don't think you have the power to influence elections, why do you block anything?
Good point.
Well, we have policies that are focused on making sure that more voices on the platform are possible. We see a lot of abuse and harassment, which ends up silencing people
with his
and
eyes.
them leave from the platform.
All right, Mr. Dorsey, I find your opening questions, your opening answers absurd on their face. Let's talk about the last 2 weeks in particular. As you know, I have long been concerned about Twitter's
blatant liar. He is a
of
blatant
censoring
liar.
And silencing individual Americans with whom Twitter disagrees. But 2 weeks ago, Twitter, and to a lesser extent Facebook, crossed a threshold that is fundamental in our country. 2 weeks ago, Twitter made the unilateral decision to censor the New York Post in a series of 2 blockbuster articles, both alleging evidence of corruption against Joe Biden, the first concerning Ukraine, the second concerning communist China. And Twitter made the decision, number one, to prevent users, any user, from sharing those stories. And number two, you went even further and blocked the New York Post from sharing on Twitter its own reporting. Why did Twitter make the decision to censor the New York Post?
We had a hack materials policy that we.
When was that policy adopted?
In 2018, I believe.
In 2018. Go ahead. What was the
He's
policy?
not quite sure when
So
it
the
was
policy
adopted
is
because he was
around,
currently stranded on an
limiting the
island
spread
out in the middle of the
of
Pacific.
materials that are hacked.
Just
we
got
didn't
back.
want Twitter to be
Has
a
yet to shave.
distributor for hacked materials. We found that the New York Post, because it showed the direct materials, screenshots of the direct materials, and it was unclear how those were attained, that it fell under this policy. Now,
so in your view, if it's unclear the source of a document, and in this instance, the New York Post documented what it said the source was, which it said it was a laptop owned by Hunter Biden that had been turned into a repair store. So they weren't hiding what they claimed to be the source.
The source has been authenticated.
Is it your position that Twitter, when you can't tell the source,
The FBI
blocks press
authenticated it.
stories?
The director of national
No, not at
intelligence
all.
authenticated it.
Our team made a fast decision. The enforcement action, however, of blocking URLs, both in tweets and in DM, in direct messages, we believe was incorrect. And we changed it.
Today,
24
right now, the New York Post is still blocked from tweeting 2 weeks later.
Yes, they have to log into their account, which they can do at this minute, delete the original tweet, which fell under our original enforcement actions, and they can tweet the exact same material in the exact same article, and it would.
Or you could just unlock their account. That would be a solution to this too. Yeah. Did you ever think of that one, Jack Dorsey?
Go through.
So, Mr. Dorsey, your ability is you have the power to force a media outlet. Let's be clear. The New York Post isn't just some random guy tweeting. The New York Post has the 4th highest circulation of any newspaper in America. The New York Post is over 200 years old. The New York Post was founded by Alexander Hamilton. And your position is that you can sit in Silicon Valley and demand of the media that you can tell them what stories they can publish, and you can tell the American people what reporting they can hear. Is that right?
No, this was every person, every account, every
He's lying.
organization that signs up to Twitter agrees to a terms of service. Terms of service is
so
published.
Media outlets must genuflect and obey your.
And when you argued that your company should fall under Section 230 protections, you argued that in return for this, you would allow free speech on your platform.
Dictates if they wish to be able to communicate with readers. Is that right?
No, not at all. We recognized an error in this policy, and specifically the enforcement.
You're still blocking their posts. You're still blocking their posts. Right now, today, you're blocking their posts.
We're not blocking the post. Anyone can tweet.
Can the New York Post post on their Twitter account?
If they go into their account.
No is your answer to that. No.
So it goes even
Unless
further than that. Not only could the New York Post not tweet at this time, but it was actually the link that they had posted was actually still being blocked at this time. And as soon as Jack Dorsey testified that people could, I believe like 30 minutes to an hour later, they actually unlocked it. So someone went back in and said, "Oh crap, Jack Dorsey just said people could tweet this post, and they actually can't. We better change that and make it look like we weren't lying."
And agree with your dictates. Let me ask you something. You claimed it was because of a hacked materials policy. I find that facially highly dubious and clearly employed in a deeply partial way. Did Twitter block the distribution of the New York Times' story a few weeks ago that purported to be based on copies of President Trump's tax returns?
We didn't find that a violation of our terms of service in this policy in particular, because it was reporting about the material. It wasn't distributing the material.
Okay, well, that's actually not true. They posted what they purported to be original source materials And federal law,
Yeah,
federal
lying
statute
again.
makes it a crime, a federal felony, to distribute someone's tax returns against their knowledge. So that material was based on something that was distributed in violation of federal law, and yet Twitter gleefully allowed people to circulate that. But when the
We're
article
almost
was
done here. We're
critical
going to
of Joe
watch to the end, though,
Biden,
because Ted
Twitter
Cruz really gets him
engaged
at the
in
end.
rampant censorship and silencing.
And again, we recognized errors in that policy. We changed it within 24 hours. This is
But you're still blocking the New York Post. You haven't changed it.
We have changed it. They can log into their account, delete the original tweet. That was
You forced a
guaranteed.
Politico
bullying
reporter
them.
to take down his post about the New York Post as well. Is that correct?
Within that 24-hour period, yes. But we, as the policy has changed, anyone can tweet
So
this article.
Twitter takes the view
Thank
you
you.
can censor the New York Post, you can censor Politico, presumably you can censor the New York Times or any other media outlet. Mr. Dorsey, who the hell elected you and put you in charge of what the media are allowed to report and what the American people are allowed to hear? And why do you persist in behaving as a Democratic super PAC, silencing views to the contrary of your political beliefs?
Let's give.
Yep, that's it right there. Got him. Congrats to Senator Ted Cruz here. This is what needed to be said. Hopefully, if you guys don't completely understand Section 230, I urge you to go back and watch my video that is titled Section 230 and Clarification. It's from a few weeks ago. You can listen to it on a podcast too if you want. It pretty much dives into the misinterpretations that have been made around Section 230 that allows these social media companies to basically get around all this stuff and do whatever they want when in reality they should not be allowed to do it. And it's the Ninth Circuit Court of the federal Ninth Circuit Court, which is based out west and mainly in California, and it leans extremely to the left. They're the ones who have laid out these Section 230 misinterpretations that has essentially made it, common law of the land. So, but let's go on. I'm not going to read the rest of this article, but finally the New York Post, after 16 days, is now allowed to tweet again. It's absolutely insane. But I'm glad they didn't give in. Jack Dorsey said that they have to remove their post and then they will be unlocked and then they can post the same content again. That is absolutely fucking outrageous, and I'm glad that the New York Post did not back down to that. So let's go on. Let's talk a little bit about Amy Coney Barrett. So as you guys know, Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed about a week ago now, a little over a week ago, and she filled Ruth Bader Ginsburg's spot on the Supreme Court, and in my opinion, she will be the best judge that we have had since Clarence Thomas, who still sits on the court. But, the Democrats have freaked out about this. They've gone completely insane, and, we got an article here from The Hill about it, so let's get into it. Let's read the news. Democrats want revenge with calls on Justice Barrett to recuse herself. Judicial confirmations tend to be state affairs in the Senate, with rhetoric running from calm regret to restrained celebration. This week, however, the language had a more menacing tenor of a syndicate rather than a Senate. Richard Blumenthal warned of consequences if his colleagues dared to confirm in a reference to threats to change the Supreme Court. The message was clear: to vote no, or the Supreme Court gets it. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer went full Tony Montana with his Scarface version of "You want to play rough? Say hello to my little friend." He threatened to use the potential Democratic majority to strip rights of Republicans that he declared forfeited in the confirmation. Democrats feel disrespected and are threatening acts of retaliation in changing the Senate or the Supreme Court. But the most unhinged was the idea to impeach Amy Coney Barrett after she assumes her seat. This option was raised by columnist Norman Ornstein, who wrote that if she, quote, immediately votes for voter suppression after she joined the Supreme Court, that she could, quote, quickly be impeached because President Trump had asked her to openly act to tilt the scales of the election, which is completely insane. She testified that she has had no conversations with Donald Trump, and she hasn't. I completely believe her. There's no reason to, whatever happened to believe all women? What it turns out is we should only believe the women when it is politically advantageous for the Democrats. That is what it goes down to. Let's go on. It does not matter that Barrett denied such a conversation and that no one has an inkling of how she would vote on election challenges that have not even been filed. Ornstein was building on demands from various senators that Barrett promised to recuse herself from any election disputes. This is what they're saying. The Democrats are saying that if somehow this election, which might be highly contested, if it's contested to the point where it goes to the Supreme Court, the Democrats are saying that if Amy Coney Barrett does not recuse herself, which she should not, she has no obligation to recuse herself, But if she does not, the Democrats are going to try to impeach her. Yes, they're going to try to impeach her, just like they tried the sham impeachment, Russian collusion, Ukrainian bullshit that they pulled against Donald Trump when they knew that the entire time Hunter Biden was doing illegal, corrupt deals behind the backs, running around with Burisma and running around the communist China and Russia and collecting bags of cash for his father, Joe Biden, who was the vice president, the ex-vice president of the United States of America. That's exactly what Hunter Biden is, mind you. He is a collector. He is a money collector, a tax collector for Joe Biden. And it has become very clear. This is insane. Democrats out there who are, who haven't voted yet and are voting for Biden, you need to really consider these things before you go out and vote, because the Democrats, they want to destroy the fundamental foundations of what make this country great. They want to pack the Supreme Court, which would completely ruin one branch of government. It would remove the ability to change anything, and it would remove the challenge, the checks and balances that make this country great. They want to pretty much run rampant with authoritarianism from the wild left. They want to add states to the government. They want to add states to the country just so that they can have more votes and control the Senate. They want to impeach people that they do not agree with. They want to get rid of the Constitution. What they're going to do is they are going to try to go around the amendment process and put in their own amendment and somehow get around it. They're basically going to bypass the amendment process so that they can get rid of the Electoral College. And if they get rid of the Electoral College, any one of you out there who does not live in a big, major blue Democratic city will be completely disenfranchised, and you will never be represented by anyone in the American federal government again. Period. End of story. This is what they want to do. They have said it. They have been saying the quiet things out loud since they tried to impeach Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the last bulwark against this. He is an outsider, some might say, oh, he's not an outsider anymore. He's been in the office for 4 years. No, he is an outsider. He does not accept aid from the lobbyists. He does not play ball with the Democrats. He does not back down. He is the only one there who does not back down. Even our old rhinos in the Republican Senate and the Republican House have proven that they back down time and time again. Remember when we had all three branches of government and the Republicans failed to repeal the Affordable Care Act, as Donald Trump urged them to? This is absolutely insane. They are rhinos. These people need voted out, but do not vote Democrats in their replacement unless you want the country completely destroyed. They will come for everything. They will come for your freedom of speech. They will come for your right to bear arms. They will come for the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment. They will come for absolutely everything. They will pack the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will rule in their favor in every possible thing that they put in front of them. It will be the end of this country. I know that sounds a little bit insane, but it is true and is what I firmly believe, that the Democrats want to destroy this country. Look at how radical they have become in just the last 10 years. If you look at the policies of Donald Trump and the policies of the Democratic Party from 20 years ago, they are practically identical. Bill Clinton ran on securing the borders. He ran on abortion being safe, legal, and rare. He ran on balancing the budget. These are all things that Donald Trump has run on. It's absolutely insane what the Democrats want to do now. They want the Green New Deal. They want socialized medicine for everyone. They want completely open borders. And there's nothing going on there. They just want open borders because they know that these people will come in and vote for them. We cannot let this happen to this country. We have to stop them. I digress. Let's go on. Let's look at the polls a little bit, something a little happier. So, we're here on the Real Clear Politics, and for those of you who don't know about Real Clear Politics, they essentially take an average of all the polls in the country, and they average them out so you get a kind of a good understanding of what all the polls are going, where they're all trending without looking at every single polling website out there. We'll go over here to the averages here. The President Trump job approval, it's closing. It was pretty bad a few days ago. 45% of Americans approve. 53 disapprove. General election, Biden is up 7.9. That's been pretty steady for a good 2 weeks now. Direction of the country, it's always wrong. But, that could be against Trump or against Biden. You might think that, if I was asked that question, I would say the country was going in the wrong direction too, just because the Democrats want to control it, and with all the talk of packing the Supreme Court and getting rid of the Senate filibuster just so that they can pound through this leftist legislation. Pelosi's favorability ratings is going down. She was unfavorable by about 15 to 16 points. Now she's unfavorable by 17.5. The Trump favorability rating is 13.1. These are important statistics to compare. To me, that says that the Democrats are more unfavorable than Donald Trump. But here's what is very important. Look at these polls here. Let's go to this. They have this neat little feature here where you can create your own map and you can change states from red to blue, from independent and toss up to whatever you want. And you can essentially see what will happen. Looks like we're having a problem loading it. Let's refresh. All right, here we go. Create our own map. Get out of here. All right, this is insane. Sorry, everybody. Real Clear Politics has decided to completely change the way that they go about showing their news to people. Oh, looks like we're not going to get to talk about the polls here, or at least we're not going to be able to create our own map. That is unfortunate. Let's see if we can find it somewhere else. All right, here we go. 270 to win. So, as you can see here, they have Texas going red. They have Florida still as a toss-up. As it stands right now, this site, 270 to win, has Biden at 290 votes and Donald Trump at 163. But they also have Michigan. The reason that they have Biden so high, as you guys know, you need 270 to win, as the name of the site says, it's because they have states like Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and South Carolina, Pennsylvania, all blue already. And that's just, the polls simply do not show that. The polls have pretty much a tie in Pennsylvania. So we're going to change Pennsylvania to red because I think anything within inside the margin of error is an incorrect poll. We're going to change Ohio to red. Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, I believe will stay blue. Iowa, I think will go red. Florida will go red. Georgia will go red. And North Carolina will go red. That's 267 for Donald Trump. Nebraska's obviously going to go red. Let's change that here. 268. I think Arizona will be the third one to go red, and I think Donald Trump will win. This one will go blue. What are we missing here? We're missing something. My estimates are 278 to 250 to 260. Interesting. What do we got here? Who knows, everyone? I'll post another video later. Hopefully I can get this Real Clear Politics site working a little better because it is a much easier site to show, and they allow you to change the maps, and they let you look at the polls as you're going about this. So that's all I got for today, folks. Check out that video later with the better interactive map. Remember to like and subscribe if you like my videos. You can check me out on all the podcasts too. I'm on pretty much every podcast platform, so thanks for sticking around.